Regarding our labor panel, a labor session is going to be talking about how to utilize some unique scheduling, managing T and visa programs, and retaining employees on the farm. So Chet Mogler is a start-to-finish producer in Lyon County, Iowa. He and his family manage Pig Hill Companies, a swine production system which markets over 200,000 hogs a year. Chet was intimately involved in the design, construction, and startup of the Mogler family's 4,400 head sow farm called Pig Hill West. In his spare time, Chet enjoys spending time with his wife Cassie and their 10 kiddos on their acreage. So what a happy man that would be, right? So I'll turn to Chet and I'll introduce the individuals as they come up.
All right. Try and make this quick. So it is my bride and I's 14th anniversary today. So I think it was 6 o'clock this morning. I got a text that Dakota had woke up at 4 a.m. and started puking every half hour, managed to get the sheets, the clothes, and all that dirty. So she's a wonderful woman. And but this is my staffing plan for the future. I'm going back to the traditional ways of staffing. So there's a reason they put me in charge of reproduction on the farm. So, but no, my wife and I have 5 biological children, and we've adopted 5 kids through foster care. So we've been blessed and enjoy doing it. So the things I'm going to talk about today are maybe a truth for us. They may not be a truth for other people's farms, but it's just something to stimulate your guys' some thoughts about kind of some differences of what we traditionally do. So one of the things, as we started up our 4,400 head sow farm, and I thought about staffing and schedule and the different challenges, there were some things with the industry standard schedule of whether that's working, every other weekend or every 3 weekends, and what those challenges were going to be. And I'll just go through the things that were, I guess, like I said, a truth to me. So skeleton crew on the weekends, the day of rest for us, it's Sundays, and family time is important to our heritage. And so it wasn't, when you're partial staffed, you're putting in long hours on the weekends you worked. And we tend to try and lead by example in our operation and help out on the weekends and help with chores. And so it was just challenging. One person, so for example, if you got 18 people on the farm and you're working 1 out of 3 weekends, you got 6 people on staff for the weekend. Well, if something comes up, because there's always something that comes up, one person missing out of 6 is 17% of your staff is missing for that day. Unaccomplished tasks tend to get pushed off, and so work doesn't get done. And we don't need more work on a Monday, and so that was one of the challenges. Child care, challenges. If somebody's got kids they got to care for, something came up, it's easier to find somebody for a short amount of time versus a long amount of time, and I'll kind of explain how we get down in our hours. And then just weekday requests for personal needs, personal business, whether that's going to the dentist, whether that's going to the courthouse, bank, whatever it is. And so this is our unique schedule has helped us solve this problem. So what is the schedule I'm talking about? So it came to me, our family was getting together on a Memorial Day weekend, and I was frustrated because I'd put in just a ton of hours. We were running short-staffed, and I was like, there's got to be a better solution for staffing farms that can help with weekends, that can help with holidays. And I spent several hours in front of a spreadsheet in a lawn chair after I had gotten out of the farm on a Memorial Day weekend and was trying to solve this problem. And kind of what I came up with was, how do we get to about the same amount of hours worked? What is the best pattern? And so this is what I call our 10-day schedule. And it varies depending on who it is. So let's just pick, I just chose the days across the top. I just wanted to show the pattern, and then my next slide shows the whole schedule. But pick this one individual, the top gray bar. They work their schedule's a nine days on, 1 day off. And what I'd say is we give people the option if they want to do 9 days on, 1 day off, or if they want 2 days on. It kind of comes down to how many hours they're wanting to put in. A lot of our TN Visa employees, they're here to work, they want the hours, and so we'll give them that. So look at this as, okay, now this is the individuals working within the department. So nobody has the same schedule. They all have a 10-day schedule. They might have 2 days off, might have 1 day off. Offset their days off. So the line I'm going to draw you to is go down here. This is the total count of people working that day. Look how much that jumps around. Not much. So in that department. But they get their days off. In this case, this person's a Tuesday. They get off their Friday. They get off a Monday. They get off a Thursday. You say, man, they work a lot of weekends, right? I'll get to why that's not a problem as much. And so, and there's just a lot of cross-training then that we focus on in this, so that kind of anybody being gone, I think everybody understands the benefits of cross-training, but you might have one person on the team that flexes every time they're off. They're kind of filling that role. So the next slide shows that with the actual people in the departments. And so, again, there's a lot going on here, but I guess what I'd point to is, breeding and gestation, offsetting who's on in that area, flex person, manager, same thing, farrowing lead or manager and assistant manager never have the same days off for the most part. You kind of taking your key, so whether you're your main flex person, your main manager, your assistant manager, your lead people, set the schedule up that they're not all gone on the same day, so to speak. And so, again, flexing that schedule to get to that, and then I guess, again, drawing the attention to the bottom line is how many people are working every single day? Somewhere between 15 and 17 people. I don't include my biosecurity manager and my maintenance manager in the total labor count for the day because this is more production. But this is the schedule that we have published in a PDF. It's accessible on our Paycor app or whatever, and they can get to this and look out months on end. What also you'll have is, when somebody asks for a day off, wants to trade, whatever it is, they can go look, and maybe they just want to trade a day versus taking a PTO day. They go look who's on that day that I need off. They ask that person to make a trade with them. And so just tons of flexibility. What ends up happening is people kind of manage their own schedule with this. So it's been very advantageous to us. So what is the result of this schedule for us? I must have sent you in the wrong order, so I'm going to skip that. I'm going to come back. So what are the benefits of this 10-day schedule? Fully staffed weekends. Okay? So we have everybody, essentially got 15 out of 18 of your staff is there on the weekend. So what does that result in? That results in about a 6-hour Saturday and a 3.5-hour Sunday. We do have a rotation of some afternoon chores that 1 or 2 people are on, but they're on about 1 out of 10 weekends. So, the weekend, even though they're working more weekends, it's a substantially shorter weekend. It's not an overwhelming weekend. Again, back to the one person missing out of 6 to 17%. If something comes up, one person missing out of 16, it's 6% of your scheduled staff that day. So we don't have unaccomplished tasks that get pushed off to the weekdays. It gets done. What has also happened, and this is kind of just consequences or a benefit, I would say, of this, is we do on our on the holidays, the 6 holidays we acknowledge, we do half staffing is kind of how we have it scheduled. But by that, people understand the benefit of having the full staff, and we pay time and a half. They'll volunteer to work those holidays because they want to be there, because they want the other people to work their holidays. And then again, the holiday is, it's a quick day because you're fully staffed. Everybody got to enjoy that holiday, even though they worked because they were out at noon or whatever it is. So, Again, same thing, something pops up, somebody needs to watch kids. It's easier to find somebody to watch kids for 6 hours versus a 10-hour workday on a weekend. This is challenges with the weekends. Days off, this was huge. We were continually getting asked for, on staffing, this, time off for these types of things. And again, their ability to just flex and find people within their department that can cover for them, or they have those days off, so they just schedule them, and it works really to the benefit. One other thing I just want to talk about, we do it on our farm, 4,400 head sow farm, we wean twice a week. Our goal is to fill a 2,400 head finisher in a week, and so that's the way we size the farm, but I'm going to back up because I had my slides in the wrong order. But thinking about a Thursday, Friday, or what days do you wean, and how does the consequent or the subsequent workload of those days you wean? Sows will farrow 17 weeks, and if you have 116 to 116 and a half day gestation length, sows will farrow 17 weeks, 2.5 days after their wean event. Okay? So if you wean, a Thursday wean sow is due Saturday afternoon. Okay? A Friday wean sow is due Sunday afternoon. When don't you want sows farrowing? Sunday night and Monday night, right? So because of that, we wean Mondays and Wednesdays. Gilts just fall in there on average, so to speak, when it comes to their breeding. But being able to time the wean sow breedings to a Monday and a Wednesday reduces our farrowing workload on the weekend. It puts all of our breeds on the weekend, but again, a breeding event is a very short, timed out event. A farrowing event is a 6-hour event. Breeding event is a 6-minute event. Which one do I want to do on the weekends? The breeding event. So just something to think through on that as you think through weaning schedule and how that affects your labor. So just some other quick little things, and I'm sure I didn't even touch base with the other folks presenting, but just some stuff that, we focus on. Again, I think everybody has learned that this stuff is important and are trying to implement it, but, our office, when we designed our office, we're like this, we want this to feel like home, not an institution. So you put the pine cabinets in, you make it, you spruce it up a little, you do painted sheetrock versus, glass board, and so you do those types of things to make it feel good. We do a catered meal on Friday to our sow farm. The people are in these 10 hours, 11 hours a day. Make sure you've got good clothing. Make sure you've got, work $20 comfortable boot inserts, and you should not wear. I mean, I know it in grow finish. The more uncomfortable boots are, the less time those people chore. I'm telling you, there's a direct correlation. And so just go on that little bit extra, make it comfortable. They're on their feet all day. Buy good socks that aren't crumpling up and lost all their elastic. Throw them away when they got holes in. Manage those little things that make people comfortable. I'm a stickler for this. I hate walking into a dark hog barn, and I set the precedent when we started up the farm. Our treatment caddy in the sow farm has got everything for taking care of the sow plus 2 light bulbs every day. I mean, there isn't a Reese. There's maybe 2 bulbs out in the farm today, but they're going to get changed by the end of the day, right? I mean, and people tend to really appreciate that. Just a real quick little detail that we put in the jelly jars of the glass globes as the style light. We have about 50 extras of those glass globes. We run them through a dishwasher, batches of them through the dishwasher, and replace them. Keeps the fly poop off, keeps them bright, and cleans them quite quickly. And so that's one of those little things that keep your facility clean and bright if people are working there. We went to the extra cost of putting windows in when we built it just for that natural lighting. Encouraging people to interact at break, build that team camaraderie. If you're a huge company, give your managers a budget or some leeway to take some time. Give them some money to spend with the staff outside of work. And then just golden rule: helping people out in their emergencies. They got a flat tire, they got family emergency, they're moving something. Again, take time to help out with those things. So that's the quick and dirty what I had. So.
Thank you. We'll get all three panelists up here to take questions here in just a bit. So. Thank you. Dr. Cho, if you'd work your way up here. Victor Cho is the director of SwineWorks, one of the largest staffing companies in the swine industry. He's a veterinarian with an MBA from Colorado State University and a certified immigration law specialist from Cornell University. Before joining SwineWorks, Victor served as animal welfare specialist at PIC and production manager for Smithfield. So welcome. Victor, I'll get your presentation.
Thank you, Colin. Can you hear me well?
Yep.
Perfect. First of all, thank you for having me here and the opportunity. I'm going to go very quickly because I have like 100 slides, so I only have 10 minutes. But a little bit about our company. We have about 16,000 applicants already in the last 5 years. We have placed over 1,000 employees in the industry. We serve, for the most part, obviously, the swine industry, but we have served other industries like cattle, poultry, feed mill operations. We have over 200 clients, for the most part, on the Midwest. And before that, I'm sure everybody's familiar with TN, but for those who are not, a little bit summary of this visa, that's the one that we use the most. It's based on the NAFTA agreement between the U.S., Mexico, and Canada. They changed the name back in 2020, but it's been in place since 1995. So this type of visa has been in use for forever, or more than 20 years. So it's not new. It's not specific for the swine industry. It can be used in pretty much all the industries. One of the requirements is, or the principle of this visa is engage in business activities at a professional level. That means one of the requirements is that they have to have a college education, a college degree. The other requirement, they can only come from these three countries, Mexico, US, and Canada. So far in 5 years, we have one applicant from Canada, not from the US, everybody else from Mexico. So for the most part, it's just from Mexicans. Like say, they have to have the college degree. This college degree have to be there's a list of professions provided by immigration. They have to be there. For the swine industry, normally bring agronomists, veterinarians, animal scientists. For other industries, we focus on engineers, nutritionists. The only requirement for the employer is that college degree matches their activities. So for instance, we cannot bring a lawyer to work in a pig farm. We can bring a lawyer to work in HR or other departments. So just to make sure that you can match those activities. I put here is a kind of permanent visa. If you go to the description, it's a temporary visa, but in reality, it can be renewed as many times as you want. It can actually qualify for a green card. So myself, I was on that visa for almost 8 years. So you can renew as many times as you want. So it's pretty much like a permanent visa. They receive social security numbers. So it's pretty much like they were a US citizen. The biggest difference, this visa is overseen by immigration or Department of State, is not overseen by Department of Labor. And that's a huge difference because that means there is not that many paperwork, not that many regulation, and not that many audits. So it's very, very flexible, and that's why we recommend using this visa compared to other type of visas. So all these numbers I'm going to show is based on the more than 1,000 people that we have placed in the U.S. And basically, there are three variables here. One is the demographics. They come from Mexico, obviously, because of the type of visa. The other one is they are millennials, they are young. And the other one is because they are TN, they have education, right? So there are those three variables. So the demographic, the vast majority of the applicants are men, 83% of them are men. 66% of them are single, so the vast majority of them are single. And they are, like say, millennials. They are between 27 and 42-year-old. And that comes with some caveats. What the millennials want, normally they want they are very ambitious, and they want high income. I'm not saying they are hard workers, but they want high income. They really enjoy work-life balance. Meaning and purpose is a big one for them. They really like positive feedback. They don't take well being told no, being told not what to do. So we need to make sure we provide positive feedback. And the other important is they are very tech savvy. Everybody hates millennials until you need to fix the computer, right? So they really like technology. On the other hand, we have, like say, Mexicans coming from TNs. They are educated. So then we normally have to spend some time explaining why we do things compared to other type of regular workers that we have in the US in the past. Sadly, not a lot of them have English. In Mexico, we have obviously English schools and all that, but if you have a college degree and you speak English in Mexico, you can have a better job that you can find in the US. So that's why we normally don't have that many applicants. Probably less than 5% of the applicants speak English. So that's one problem with the TNs that come from for the swine industry. From the cultural side, there's some big difference. One is we avoid confrontation at all costs. So, and then you combine that with being millennial. So you don't know how many times people that quit on our program, they just disappear. They never tell you they are going to leave or anything. When we reach out to them and see why they quit, they say, oh, no, I have just personal issues in Mexico. And that's it. That's all they say. However, when we start texting them and say, OK, what's the problem? They text 20 pages of reason why they quit. So we have to understand how to communicate with both the culture and the type of generation we're dealing with. Another point about cultural difference, animal welfare is a big one. Mexico is not as developed as in the US, so take your time to train on those aspects when you're receiving people from this program. So to have a successful program, we need to understand what they want. First of all, like I mentioned, they want to know why, because they are educated. They normally, it's hard for them to understand why we power wash if you don't explain it. So take your time to train them, to tell them the reason why we power wash, why we have biosecurity, why we have animal welfare policies. And then as a millennial, they all want to save the world, right? So we need to spend some time teaching them the values, the policies, offering some sort of how to say it, like, we have a very bad reputation in agriculture, right? We are always abusing animals or polluting the country. So we need to explain them why we do things and what are the values that we have on our industry. There is a sense of community and family. Chad mentioned that. We really like to celebrate the parties, we use looking for an excuse to celebrate something at the farm. So birthday parties, quinceañeras, everything. So spend some time just building that community. Chad mentioned same thing, flexibility is a big one. Especially with this new generation, with new technologies, we need to try to make our work schedule more flexible for them so we can attract more candidates at the same time and more employees. Time off is a big one too. This new generation, especially we compare with other industries. Remember, we are struggling to find workers, so we are competing with other industries. The vast majority of them are offering 4 weeks, 1 month, 3 months in Europe of time off. And the vast majority of my clients, when I ask about their benefit package, 1 week every year. So think about that. When you have your family in another country and you have to travel and visit them, and then you have 3 nights off for downtime, you only have 4 days a year that you can see your family. So think about those aspects, and that can help you and make your program more successful. Same thing with high wage and benefits. So vast majority of them are only focused on the salaries. Out of the 16,000 applicants, I think we have 3 that ask about 401k and health insurance. Everybody else, the first question that they ask is, how much money are you going to pay me? So I'm not saying you have to spend more money, but think about what is important for them. Is it important for them the retirement, the health care, the child care? So think about your employees and what is important for this new generation. And you can play around with the numbers, housing, transportation, so you don't have to spend more, but you can put the money where it matters. And same about technology, okay? We talked this morning about what technology can we use in the farm, and I think we are way behind in the swine industry. When we think about, when you see a picture of somebody power washing versus a company that is using robots to power wash, I'm going to be more attracted to work for that company with robots than somebody who I have to power wash. So think about investing in that type of technology. Social media is important as well. So the data, what do we have? So turnover is pretty much the one aspect that we look for, and when it's happening. We can see on all of these are TN visa. The biggest turnover, 39% of our turnover, is on the first 3 months. And basically, if you add until the six month, you have 60% of the turnover on the first 6 months. Once they pass that, basically that deadline, it's pretty much very stable. So think about how important is those initial months when you receive an employee from this program. How about salary? Across all our clients, swine and poultry are on the bottom end of salaries, $14 an hour on average. We still have some clients on 12.5. So it's not the entire industry, but just to give you an idea, when you compare other industries, veterinary clinics, transportation, processing plants, they're way above. No surprise, the highest turnover that we have is in the swine industry, okay, 26%. So going back to my point, it's very important to focus on the salaries, especially now that they have access to all of their offers, not just yours, so think about that. Now, another paradigm here. So 83% of our placements are men, okay, and 17 women. And hopefully there is nobody from HR here, but it's basically the request that we have from the clients. Who you think has higher turnover, men and women? You'll be surprised. 34% turnover on men, 12% only on women. So think about, who are you hiring, and maybe we can start changing that paradigm and start hiring more women than men because they stay longer. How about single or married? 34% of our placements are married, 66% are single. Single tend to leave the farm more often, less than a year. So 32% turnover versus 18. So think about women that are married, maybe bringing a couple to your farm. It can help you to reduce your turnover. How about age? Basically divided in three categories. 22 to 29 is the vast majority of them, 57%. 30 to 39, 40%, and then above 40-year-old. The highest turnover is over 40-year-old. There is basically no difference between 22 and 39. So it doesn't make a huge difference if you are under 40. Now the careers. Like I say, the vast majority of people that we bring are agronomists, 66%, veterinarian 14%, engineers, and biologists. We bring a few. The highest turnover are on engineers. That's normally maintenance positions. Biologists is the second highest, and veterinarians and agronomists are pretty much even, 19% of turnover. So that's the one that we care the most, but just to keep that in mind, what is important when you select your candidates coming to this program. So how are we going to manage this program? And some tips here. Addressing their needs, right? So they want to know why. So how are we going to address that? Well, it's a good idea to start an onboarding program. You don't have, it's a good idea to start an onboarding program, especially on the initial 3 months. We saw that it's the highest turnover on those 3 months. So why? And on my personal experience too, what's the scenario that they face when first arrive? The farm is being short-staffed for, 3, 6, 9 months. They are behind in power washing, they are behind in vaccinating, processing, and you go straight to do those activities because you're the new guy, right? So if you have a program, an onboarding program, and you kind of settle down with this guy and explain them the process, training them before just putting them to process and power wash, you can help those turnovers. Something that some of my clients are doing quite successfully is finding a good mentor. And it doesn't have to be the farm manager. It doesn't have to be a supervisor. We've seen more success when it's actually another TN that has more experience. But the key is somebody who can communicate well in English and Spanish, because that's kind of the intermediary, and somebody who's people-oriented. Okay, so focus on those skills. Try to identify somebody on your farm that can meet those abilities, and try to use them as a mentor, because it's been really, really helpful on the clients that we have, that they assign somebody. And that's normally the person who takes them to the Walmart and pick them in the morning and spend some time with them to do them farm. We mentioned Save the World, right? So make sure you spend the time explaining all the policies that we have on the farm: animal welfare, sustainability, the core values of your company, the mission statement. All those is important, especially with the TN, because they want to know why we do things, and they want to, like say, save the world and have a purpose. Sense of community and family. Consider bringing friends and family. We have brought around 10, 12 couples. Only one of them had left. So and somebody who is referred, obviously friends, that means, one, the employee is happy because he's referring other friends. The other one, they are happy together, they're living together. The only downside, you have to be careful, you have less turnover. However, when you lose somebody, you are going to lose 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so just keep that in mind if you are, depending on the size of your company, but keep that in mind when you are choosing the profile. Like I mentioned, celebrate social events, create a nice job environment. Chad mentioned community events. I remember Bernardo was organizing always the softball games and things like that outside the work. That is important for Hispanics to create a good community. And very important, we as Hispanic, we really like gossiping and war mongering, right? So get rid of bad apples as soon as possible, because they're going to spread the word. Don't give it a second chance, third chances. Somebody who doesn't like the job is not going to like it later. So just get rid of them as soon as you can, so it doesn't contaminate your employees. Work-life balance and wage. So like I mentioned, consider longer vacations and time off. Consider your downtimes. Focus on wage more than benefits. Attention to housing and transportation. Right now it's kind of a standard, 3 months for free, and then either one, they can continue living for free, or they can find their own place. So think about when you are making those job offers, how are you going to provide that? My recommendation, I've seen TNs tend to abuse when it's for free. So even if you charge something that is significant for them or insignificant for you, like utilities, something like that, you're charging something so they realize they have some value for your company, because we see a lot of them are just abusing and leaving the furnace on and not taking care of the property. So think about that. Green card programs. That's something you can use to promote keeping your employees for longer. We've seen a few of our clients offering the green card after 5 years, so that's helping them to retain those employees in the long term. But obviously, just offer them to somebody who you think or you trust is going to stay in the long term. Once they get the green card, basically, they can work whenever they want. So just think about how you structure all those programs. And last but not least, technology. Millennials, they cannot live without cell phone, and you're asking them to leave their cell phone 8 hours per day. So think about biosecurity and just think out of the box how to deal with this new generation, because they really like cell phones, they really like technology. Right now, I was doing the math yesterday about our clients. 96% of them doesn't have a website or social media presence. So how they're going to find you? For trying to find these candidates and you don't find it anywhere, well, you are not anywhere because you don't have any Facebook page, social media, website, nothing. And I guarantee you, it's going to take you probably 1 hour, and it's for free to create your Instagram page, your website, your Facebook page, and you can find those candidates. You can create that community with your employees. So for me, it's very important. You don't have to invest more money. It's free, and it's very useful when you're trying to attract this new generation. And that's it for me.
Very good.
This is fancy.
So we've addressed scheduling and TN visa, and our next speaker is going to talk about retaining employees on the farm. So from a retention standpoint, we have Sylvia Castaneda. Castaneda has a bachelor degree in business administration from DeVry University with a specialization in human resources management. She immigrated to the U.S. as a small child in 1990, moved around a bit before settling in Muscatine, Iowa, where she completed her general education. She's had the opportunity to work in various industries, but has stuck with swine for about 10 years now. And Sylvia is currently Director of Human Resources with Eichelberger Farms, one of our producers in southeast Iowa. So.
Good morning. Can everybody hear me okay? It's the first time I wear a microphone like this, so kind of fancy. Well, good morning, and thank you for having me. I was asked to speak on this topic, and my response when I was asked to my coworkers was,
We don't have slides, right? Oh, I missed it. Thank you.
I said, why don't we have an employee come up do this presentation? Because if you have the HR person up there, they're going to say everything that's right, but nobody was jumping at that opportunity to speak in front of a crowd, so here I am. But I'm not a bad example because I remember when I started with Eichelberger Farms, I had no experience in ag, let alone swine, so it really was just my bridge to get into my HR career, and I was pretty honest when I was hired and said I don't think I'll be here much more than 3 years, and I just celebrated my 10th year anniversary, so I'm still here, and I love it. I really have a passion for what I do, and I believe that it has to do with the company that I work for. So why is retention important to us? Well, what we do at Eichelberger Farms is really important. We're feeding the world. So we at Eichelbergers in 2022 produced 1.4 million market hogs, which is about 390 million pounds of meat, and the average person eats 50 pounds of meat per year. So we alone fed about 6 million people last year. So I'm sure a lot of you in this room are also in that same boat with such an important mission. So definitely need people to do this work. Something that was really important for us to realize is that it takes a really long time to develop a new employee. So anytime we have somebody joining the team and every minute that we spend with that person talking to them about us and about their work, that's an investment for us. So we broke down our job description into milestones, and we realized that it takes a really long time just to get that basic knowledge. The cost of one vacancy can be significant. I mean, research has said that it can be anywhere from 150 to 250% of that annual salary of that vacancy that you're trying to fill. And it is true, if you're curious, break down that time that you spend looking to fill that role and all of the impacts that it has on your system. It's pretty staggering. And the applicant pipeline, I mean, we don't have people coming, rushing through the door saying, I want to raise pigs. So the people that we do get into the door, we definitely treat them like gold. So what do employees want? I think, the other presenters were saying some of the same things, a sense of purpose, good work environment, an employer that cares, to feel proud. I actually asked my coworkers to share with me what they liked about working at Eichelberger Farms. What was it that kept them around? And I had a whole bunch of pictures, so I figured that'd probably be better to share than me just telling you all these stories. So something that I think we do well is we represent or we help our communities. We are constantly letting our organizations know that, hey, we're here. If you need pork, we have a lot of it. And I think that's such a great thing to do, not just for our company, but also for the industry as well. So we're out there. We invested in a nice tent, some signs, and I mean, people are proud to be out in the community representing the company. We believe in constant learning and development. So this is something that I actually just picked up at a SHRM conference that my team and I had the opportunity to go to, that having good managers is a benefit that you can offer your employees, and it's probably one of the better benefits that you can offer them. So we definitely spend a lot of time with our leaders, our managers, exposing them to different topics, different principles, whether it's leadership, whether it's industry specific stuff. So here's some of us out and about at the World Pork Expos, Missouri Expos, the HR team at the SHRM conference this year, our interns up there. We have an internship program, and we take them to a meat plant so that they can see the full cycle of what we do. So pretty cool. And then the bottom right corner, it's a leadership group. So we put all of our farm leads, managers, supervisors through a program every year where they learn just a lot of principles on leadership. So it really does help with the on the farm situations that come up. For the most part, we like who we work with. So these are some of the team pictures that were sent to me. Our truck wash crew, some of our farm staff, office people. We'll just randomly say, hey, we'll have like an ice cream day. We decided to do that last year. Just random things just to keep the day a little bit light. I mean, the work is not easy, and it's not pleasant always. So I mean, we know that, and so we want our employees to know that we understand that. So any little thing that we can do that's within our reach to make the day more enjoyable. Another thing about our staff is that, we're proud. The Zoetis signs, those are two of our production managers. And so our staff will be out at events and they'll see these signs up there, and they'll send us Snapchats or a picture like, oh, look, we saw Julio or Jose out here. So, I mean, they're proud of that, and I think that just speaks volumes of how we manage our people. 4th of July parade, definitely don't struggle to get people out there. Sometimes we have too many volunteers and, have to just kind of split up between the different events. This year we got a 2023 Mega World Producer Certificate, so that was pretty awesome. We believe in celebrating just anything, like Victor was saying, just a reason to celebrate. So whether it's new babies, every employee that has a baby that we know of gets an Eichelberger onesie, and then we ask them to send us a picture of the baby, so we welcome them into the family. We have safety celebrations. Anytime we have a new face, we like to display a little bit about them. Work anniversaries. Sometimes we do weird things like sending the ladies to get a pedicure, because we also work hard, so we deserve that too. We did a casino night at the office, and these are all team building activities, so they do help. I mean, sometimes, at the office or just at the farm in the middle of the stressful work, it's hard to see your coworker in a different lens if you're only working with them through stressful situations. So just sometimes getting out, having a little bit of fun brings people out of their shells, and sometimes you find something that you can relate with them and just you see them in a different way. So that's definitely helped us with our teamwork. Communication is key. So we have a newsletter that we circulate quarterly. And the way that we encourage our employees to read it is through a challenge. We do different puzzles. This year was a word scramble, and so all those words are in the newsletter. And so they are encouraged to read the newsletter, complete the puzzle, turn it in, and we draw a winner every quarter, and they get a $10 gift card to Walmart. So for some people, that's worth it to read and turn in that puzzle. Last quarter, we got over 20 entries. So, I mean, it's pretty cool. And then we, again, just going back to the development, we use DISC a lot for just understanding how our different team members communicate and what are the best ways to approach them. This is something that we started doing probably like 4 or 5 years ago. And most of our leads and managers go through a DISC assessment with me, and then we incorporate them into the team by speaking to the team and just letting them know a little bit more about who they'll be working with. And so that's been really helpful as well. Just other different ways that we show appreciation, flu shots, COVID shots. We try to make it convenient for employees, so we bring either whether it's public health or a nurse agency to the office and have them done there. During COVID, one of our employees offered to make face masks, and we purchased a whole bunch of face masks from her for our employees. Every year we do a dinner, and the Eichelbergers like to gift an item to all the employees, and it's something that they pick, so it's it's meaningful to us. And then we have the apparel store. We love to see people out in the community wearing the Eichelberger swag, so we do have a store, an online store, and we give an allowance to our employees, and then they can purchase things on their own if they want, and they do, so it's pretty neat to see that. We have different opportunities for our employees to get involved other than their everyday job. So currently we have 2 committees. We have the picnic committee and then the newsletter committee. And so you just have to want to be a part of the committee, and then you can join. There's perks to being part of the committees. And so that's how we get people to join. We're working on just getting more committees together. We find that this is just another avenue to get your people involved in other areas of the company, and it really helps them just get involved with other people, get to know other areas. And I mean, I think that crew right there has been pretty steady for the last, 5 years. So obviously taking care of your employees is important. I think that our benefit package is pretty good, and we're constantly reviewing what we're offering, what people want. I mean, times have changed, and your traditional benefit packets are not, they're not going to cut it anymore. So sometimes you do have to go out and see what other companies are offering. What is the new generation? What are the needs that they have, so that they can be focused at work. So yeah, I mean, I think we're proud of our turnover. Industry averages are between 30 and 35%, so we're definitely below average. And this is through growth. When I started 10 years ago, we were just below 100 employees, and today we're at about 240 employees and growing. So we're growing, and we're going through growing pains, and we're still able to keep our retention at a pretty decent level. So I think what we're doing is working. And that's it.
Thank you, Sylvia. Leave your mic on. The other 2 individuals would come back up, and I've got some remote mics. We have sufficient time before lunch.
Oh, sorry.
That one's on. Any questions for our panelists here on labor issues, immigration? Straight out front here.
So with your scheduling for your 8
Here, wait just a second for a mic coming right behind you. It'll help us a lot. Thank you.
This is for the scheduling, with you having your 9 days on, 1 day off. The issue that we seem to come up to is that your family only has weekends off. So even though you are working less, your family still only has weekends off and you're working. So that tended to be the big issue. What was your way of working around that?
Well, so they can request, if there's some event that they've got to get it off, they'll request or schedule to have that off. The other thing, so family. So I would say our American staff tends to do the 8-2, and then that by nature of that schedule, they get more weekends off because it just times out that way. But they might not earn quite so much PTO or something like that. And so what we'll do, the 9-1 schedule is those individuals are earning more PTO. They might earn 12 days of PTO, and then we'll let them take another week off, so they're gone 3 weeks. I mean, we'll let them do that because, again, you get to go visit your family 4 days. If you factor in the travel, if they get 1 week off, no. And so it depends on what their life situation is. And so when you're in 8-2, more days hit the weekends. If there's specific events, they'll trade to get that on. Again, a Sunday morning from 6 to 9:30, not a lot of your families do. You know, it hasn't tended to impact that. Or again, your family events are Saturday afternoon or Sunday afternoon, not usually 6 to noon on a Saturday morning. And so it's been a lot less of an issue than what I guess you would assume it would be.
Thank you, Chet.
I'm real quick. I wrote something down. Cell phones. So we allow cell phones into our break room, and some people like biosecurity freak out. We think it's more biosecure to let them in the break room because you're not sneaking through the shower to check your phone. So we have an SOP. They have to take their case off and they wipe it off with a disinfectant wipe and they put it in the UV and then it stays on the counter. But we've said that is more biosecure than if we don't let them bring them in to check them on break, because they will do it, whether they sneak their phone into the farm or whether they sneak through the shower to check their phone. Just a thought. I wrote that down.
Yeah, and to add on the weekend part, we've seen people, when they arrive, they want the weekends. Once they realize, like, the bank is closed, the doctor appointments, they actually like having the day off during the week so they can do more things. If you only give them weekends, they normally start requesting more times off or PTO during the week to do those activities. So that's something we've seen as well.
Right here, Tom has a question.
For your non-English speaking employees, do you provide a English language program like Babbel or something like that? And if so, how's that received and is it utilized?
We don't. We played with that a few times. Years ago, we offered an English class. Unfortunately, it wasn't successful, and by that I mean because participants were not attending, and so we didn't see the result that we were hoping, so we didn't move forward with it. We talked about Babbel, we talked about Rosetta Stone, but we have the belief that, I mean, when you offer something just for free, most people don't value it as much. And so we're trying to figure out a way to incentivize the English learning without just giving, a program. And so that's something that we're actively working on. We're trying to figure out what is the best way to incentivize the English learning.
What about the flip side of that? Offering Spanish for your English?
We've actually had quite a bit of managers ask us for that, and again, just kind of the same thing. It's okay, well, what are you willing to do to actually learn it? I've had some requests to go into Mexico for a vacation and just immerse ourselves into it, and I like that idea, but counting hasn't figured out the right allocation budget for that, so.
It's called sabbatical. They're gaining
Something, yeah.
We have cards on our break room table that have primary words to sow production that have English on one side, Spanish on the other. There's some community trainings that some of our employees have opted to go to, but with the technologies today, we use the Pork Avenue training program. I mean, they've made that bilingual. It seems like there's so many tools that, and once you have a critical mass of Spanish speakers, your lead people, or you'll translate when you need to, but essentially your key people, if they speak Spanish, they can train the next guy. The mentoring is huge for us.
Other questions? Yes, go ahead right up here. I'll repeat your question.
All right. Chet, what about implementation of that schedule? Was there some change management? Did you lose some folks? What did you see there? What can you share?
Dr. Walter was asking about, of that scheduling, going through it, how much juggling was there, really? Or change from production?
Yeah, I mean, there was some pushback, but there was enough people that were, I would say, the neutral I would call it a neutral feeling. There were some people that were negative about it. There were some people that were neutral. There were some people that were positive about it. What I will tell you, I'll say I'm not our HR director, so I'm going to boast for her. Our statistics are 35% down to 5% turnover, and that includes beneficial turnover, people who take, who are advancing in their career and it isn't within our business or whatever. So when you're less than 10% turnover, you call that a really big success. So I feel like, our sow farm itself has turned over more people, but meaning they've gone and they've advanced to different departments within our business, whether that's grow finish, whether that's truck driving, whether that's we're diversified with cattle and some of that. And so more people have turned over in the sow farm, but it's by nature of advancement throughout the company. But again, our company-wide is sub 10% turnover.
We have a microphone back there somewhere. What was it?
Yeah, in regards to the quickly evolving demographics in pork production that we've been hitting on with English, Spanish, Spanish, English, from a curriculum structure in a 4-year, I'm curious from a producer's perspective, do you think that there's an increasing need or opportunity for individuals going 4-year degrees at an Iowa State, at an Illinois, at a Minnesota to do a study abroad in a Mexican pork production facility? There's a lot of study abroad in other areas of education. Are we at a point now where it might make sense if the leaders that are going to be a part of this industry coming out of college have more experience with international systems?
I think so, Matt. I think that's a really, really cool idea. And I do think, it's part of the conversation that I've been having with different leaders in the industry is, we're relying and we understand that we're going to continue to rely on this workforce. And so how do we prepare them, but also how do we prepare ourselves for that? Because the cultural difference is huge. And a lot of the issues that like we have and a lot of the companies have are stemmed from that, and until we understand a little bit more about each other and kind of figure out what is that middle ground, I think that there's going to continue to be some of those struggles. But I think that's a really cool idea.
And then to add that, under the TN program, you're allowed to go to school, so you can actually do part-time working and attending school if you want to advance in your career. So that's a good idea. But going back, we haven't seen we've seen the same problem where they offer free classes, whether it's English or education. They normally do not take advantage of it. We've seen a lot of cases where they have to close the free classes because there's no attendance. So we're still trying to figure out how to incentivize that motivation, basically.
Dr. Yiskey.
Yeah, with your question, or one question on the weekend and the holiday schedule, where you're allowing everybody to come in on the holiday, everyone gets paid, it's just fewer hours. Is that worked out to be about the same cost, or just curious?
Yeah, at the end of the day, our biggest driver of labor cost is keep PERS out and get widgets out the doors. And so, if you're understaffed, it just kills you. What do you do if you're understaffed? You cheat. Who's the first guy that gets cut? Your biosecurity manager, because you prioritize production. And there's some of those things you just, even like I said, if you got 18 employees, you give them all 3 weeks off to travel back, guess what? You got to add an employee essentially to cover that. But the benefit, the offset, 10% turnover, it's hard to argue with that. I would say when we've had some challenges here and there with health, but when we're running at good operation, we're running at normal labor cost levels.
If we don't have any more microphones out, I'm going to cut questions there.